introduce my friend Natalie. She's actually mostly responsible for getting me off my butt and getting me doing this, which I should have been doing probably a year ago. She is a woman, she's black, and she's from the city. So she's not your usual candidate for off-roading, but she is very big on, she wants to try new things in life. And that's why I really am happy to have her on board helping me, because she's the beginnings of where I started. So I totally can relate to where this journey is going to go for her. This is going to be so much fun. So today's mission is we're going to learn about tires. The symbol is getting the rubber off the rim, and the different types of rubber, different types of rims, wheel nuts, and so forth, to give you a ballpark of what you're doing and why. And she's going to change a tire today. Never touched the tool, not of this style that I'm aware of, but today we'll teach you, and it's going to be fun.
All right, it's Tru. Thank you very much for that introduction, James. That was excellent.
This is where the rubber falls when you got to change your tire. And in most rims, it's like this. It only is off to one side. So if your bead, which is the center of the tire, this bead has to fall down inside of here. If it doesn't, I've seen people try and change it on the wrong side, and it's got to make such a stretch that they rip the tire itself. They'll rip it right through the, these are nylon cords, but some of the better cords are made out of steel belted cords. Like you hear a steel belted radial?
Yeah.
That's a steel cords in here, and steel cords to hold the tire from turning into a balloon like an inner tube.
Oh, really? Okay.
There's actually cords inside the rubber to hold the shape.
Oh, I didn't know that. All right.
So, before we can proceed to that, you just have to remember that you always look first where your drop center is. So, this is a 200 Big Red rim. And another thing you always do when you've got old stuff, you look for problems such as this. Someone hit it with a hammer, or changed it with a tool that they shouldn't have, and there's a dent right where the bead lock is. You can see it looks like a bump.
Yes.
Yeah, look for any damage of that sort. That would be, here's another really even worse one. People need to get their heads examined. Anyway, you generally give it a good look over. Next you look for on the surface where your bead makes it seal. Look for bad pitting, rust pitting.
All right.
Because a lot of bead sealers are built with basically a water base. My brother worked in a tire shop for almost 20 years, and he said you can use dish soap as your bead sealer.
Really? Oh. Well, that's a good tip.
Because it's water-based, it'll rust steel, and that's how these get pitted. Okay. So to prevent that, you put a bead sealer on. It's basically like liquid paper to cover up the mistakes you made. Mm-hmm. This is like a rubber film that you put over top so it can't rust. You got to make sure it's not too deeply pitted, because that's the first place it's going to leak. Okay. If it looks like this, we're in very good company. Everything's going to seat up nice and beautiful shape. And that loud popping when you install a tire that you're gonna hear at some point is the rubber slipping over this. That's your bead lock. Okay. That lip, the rubber, those cords can just to say barely stretch over top of that. Oh. And when they do, they snap into place loudly. Well, that's positive. So yeah. Happening a tire accident. Yeah, and you'll hear it, and don't be too alarmed. It sounds like a gunshot. Oh.
I don't know anything about gunshots. Oh.
And people often ask me how I break my beads, and I'm on the road a lot. There's a product called BeadBuster. And they have a handheld unit that breaks the beads off of the rims. And all you need is a wrench or an impact, but I'm way too lazy for a wrench, so we use the right tool for the right job. So I'll do a quick example with the no rubber in the way. This arm, you tighten down this bolt, it cinches it into the rim and pulls these 3 feet through between the rubber and the rim. Okay. And then when you tighten this bolt down, it pushes the foot down and separates the rim from the rubber.
All right.
Yeah.
And it would take tires, and then Bruce used the tires to make the ground for the
To
park.
make play things for
Yeah,
kids.
to make the playground.
Because you can't use them for air anymore. They won't hold air in a tractor. But rubber takes a long time to break down even in the sun.
Oh, really? Okay.
So they're soft-ish. There's no sharp edges because the tires are getting older and bald. So that's why they use them in parks.
So
It's like recycling.
would they be using these kind of tires or those specific kind
No,
of
they
tires?
would use the tractor tires. You need large ones.
Oh, all right.
Tractor, you know, like for front-end loaders and for farm equipment, stuff like that. They need a large diameter tire.
So what happens to these tires? Like for the environment, what happens to these tires when if they get bald and you have to use so many of them to make a playground? What do they use these for when they are recycled?
Well, when they're recycled, as far as I'm aware, a lot of them, they dice the rubber down to little chunks and press them into shapes of tools and things you need.
Oh, really?
Floor ramps to get parked cars on top to do oil changes and all sorts of bumper blocks and rubber mats for standing on, just like over at the shop there.
Well, that's interesting. All right.
They can recycle rubber.
Great. That's great. It's good to know that we can save the environment. So.
Spoken like a city person.
That's true.
Okay,
go ahead.
Necessity breeds.
I'm being countrified.
The tool itself there is, if the person tightens this down enough, it swings in to pull the teeth in. That's what this thing's job is, to pull it together. And if you pull it in too deep, remember I mentioned that lump here, that bead lock?
Yes.
Well, it will actually catch on the bead lock. And if you look, I actually broke the tool and re-welded it and shined it up to make it work again.
So if it goes over that bead lock, there's a possibility of it breaking the tool.
The tool is strong enough to break itself by tightening. So you have to go straight up and down, 90 degrees. If you're like this, it's too far. Like this, it's not enough. It's not going to catch the rubber. It's kind of a backward situation of doing it. But when the feet push down, if it slips back, it actually will cut through the rubber. And if you damage this where it seals and keeps the air in the tire, it will never hold air again.
Oh, okay.
So it's very critical you don't hurt this surface. There's your surface for making a seal. Okay. This will seat on the rim. And when you fill it up, this presses, air pressure presses it apart to hold it on the rim.
Okay.
And that's the only thing keeping it from spinning when you're turning the tire,
is
just the friction between the two. Okay, well, to operate this thing, you make sure all 3 feet are even, and make sure this thing is open all the way. It is actually open. And then you just physically use the heel of your hand and drive it underneath the bead. Once the teeth are underneath the bead, then I'm going to take my impact, suck that in the way I mentioned. Hopefully this rim isn't rotten. We'll find out.
Is anything going to fly off? And
no, nobody's going to. Good questions to ask, though. So the problem is, we're not all the way touching to here, which I'd like to be touching here, but we have a gap yet. So I'm going to push the bead out of the way, tighten it up. Let's see if I can get a little bit more. Good example of hurting the tire, but the tire is rotten anyway.
I see those videos on YouTube of tires exploding. Nothing like that is going to happen, right?
No. And when it does, I'm going to move you out of the way.
Oh, thank you.
If we need to put ether.
Okay.
Wow, this is a very good example of a tire that's rotten on there.
Is that a really good tool you have there, this impact? Is it impact gun? What is that?
This is an impact tool. It's basically known as an impact. Makita is a very good name. I have no issues with them so far. And I really like that their batteries never become obsolete.
Wow.
Wow, that's yeah.
JMO knows.
Well, let's hope. See if we can get a better place to get the tool in. Because we're ripping up the tire good, but not like it matters.
All right,
She's gonna come off.
So something to learn from this is that sometimes the tire takes more. It's not going to be easy every time to get the tire off. So don't get upset or stressed out because it sometimes takes a few times with this tool and this impact gun, to air gun, to remove the tire. So don't give up.
Oh yeah. And in the event that the rim itself pulls up because it's rusty, then you were never supposed to use that rim again anyway. If it's so rotten that the rim folds under pressure, then it's time to replace the rim.
It's a safety issue if
it is.
That's what happens.
You don't want a rim to blow out while you're going high speed.
Oh, no.
I'm getting a little gap now. There we go. Give it the love. Can you see in there? Remember that lock bead I mentioned? That we just made it over there?
Yes, I see.
Down inside there?
Yeah, it's over top of that.
Right here, we just went over top of that. Right over top of here.
Perfect, I see.
So now that it's down that way, we'll take whatever it'll let us have without hurting anything. And then move over and push the other bead off. And just keep going round and round. The fun, she never ends.
So what we're doing is we're going around the whole rim with that tool to release it from here. So we have to go all the way around. It's just not going to pop off.
We should. So on the better tires, you do one corner, the whole tire bead comes off.
Oh, okay.
This is a bad situation because the tire is so rotten. It's probably been on here for 15 years. Look how dry rotted the rubber is. It's cracking. It's a very old tire.
Well, it's a great tire to do this video on.
Yes, it is. It's a good example of how tough it can be, but there's not a lot of physical work because this tool does so much of it for me. And then once you got the bead broken, the rest of it just comes off.
Oh, great.
It's a little rusty, but I've seen worse.
Excellent.
And then we'll repeat the same thing. On the other side. This one feels a lot better. Beyond. I've actually owned this tool so long, it was never intended to change as many tires. I've welded on a new nut because the thread's stripped out of it. This one's starting to go. It's, I've probably changed 100 tires with it. The rim's starting to bend a little, but we'll move along then. Keep on trucking. Ooh, rusty and dusty. Good time. And then after we get our bead broken on both sides, we actually noticed that someone has put a tube inside here. Notice by the nut it's threaded on.
Okay.
Because it actually should be one of these. Just rubber sticking out, no nut. That tells me that that's a tube. So we'll get a 12mm wrench.
Why would they do that?
Because they couldn't get the tire to seal because it likely was cracking and leaking everywhere. So they put a tube in it to ensure that it would inflate and stay round. But the problem with that is, because it's metal, water can, if you're parked in deep water, water can get in behind. That's why it was so rusty.
Oh, yeah.
Water gets in behind between the tube and the rubber, and it rusts your rim for years and years and years, and you don't see it. Because the outside's painted, you won't see it rust through until it's too late.
All right.
I'm not big on tubes. Tubeless or nothing.
All right.
To get it off, there's often two of these nuts double jammed together so they don't rattle loose. But for whatever reason, he may have lost one. But just get this thing loosened, and it shouldn't take too much. Sometimes even finger easy. Oh boy, I already see a problem. Because there's been water inside this, between the rim and the tube so long, I can see that the hole is rotted out already. This might be a completely useless rim because of someone's negligence. And normally, if we were installing a tube, which we rarely would, very few conditions that I would ever do it, we would worry that this thing would fall down because we'll never get it back, but we don't care. If you look, the hole is not round anymore. Mm-hmm. That's likely never going to seal with one of these. So this rim is essentially garbage. Like, you could weld it up, but they don't recommend it. Okay. So we're just going to have a look inside anyway. So I'll show you the trick. Here's your drop center. This tells you how far it is away. And this one is only an inch or so. And you look on the other side. Well, it's not far from the same.
All right.
But for my money, the other side looks just a little bit shallower. So we're going to start on this side. You tuck the rubber down in the drop center. See, it's going to fall inside. Then you hook the far opposite side. Open it up. And on these bars is a little hook lip.
I see.
To grab the rubber. And it's got an arc back. So when you pry, you get maximum leverage and it almost never damages the rim whatsoever.
Perfect.
So you just get a little bit of room in there. Tuck it down in the drop center. Wink. And just go round and round. And if whatever reason you can't get it inside, you always slide it sideways and then flip. I'll probably need a babysitter.
Okay.
No, not you. A flat screwdriver or something else. Okay. You know what? We'll use the tool itself.
Okay.
I got a plan. I usually have 3 of these bars I usually have 3 of these bars, but today we don't. Drop center, pushing down with our knee, hook the opposite side, flip it up. Then I get our babysitter to hold it there. So then I got 2 free pry bars. I usually have 3 of these pry bars, but so it goes when you borrow tools out, and then you just keep flipping it up. And if whatever reason you're pulling and you can't get it to come over top of the lip, this needs to go further inside. Or you could take even smaller bites. If you're not real strong, just take smaller bites, and then they go super easy. And just keep repeating the process until the tire comes off. And if the babysitter pops off and the tire doesn't go anywhere, no harm, no foul.
It's great to learn the terminology.
So scientific.
Like a babysitter. Oh, okay, I get it. It's good because a lot of people are going to be doing this by themselves. So you sometimes need to put something in there to hold it. So it's usually going to be
a third thing if you're moving around.
Yeah,
see, now we've released the rim, but you can see the tube I talked about.
Yes.
So yeah, that rim has to come out first. And I've already taken the liberty of taking it out, but there is a core inside every stem. And to get the core out, use a core remover. It fits down, it's got a slotted edge, and every one of these cores comes out. And that lets all the air out of the tire very quickly. There's a very small hole into a very large hole. And there's your core.
Great.
And see, it's got a little rubber seal here. That little orange ring is all that holds all your tire pressure in.
Oh, really? Okay. So I guess it's good to have a really good core.
Make sure everything's in good shape. What I often do for a trick is if I suspect the core is leaking, you put a dab of your own spit over top and see if it blows a bubble.
Oh, that's a good tip. All right.
Or soap and water, same thing.
All right.
Soap and water is my go-to. I generally have a water bottle and you put some soap, just regular dish soap, Sunlight, whatever you have laying around, just enough to the soapy water inside. Warm water works best, I find. And then you put your lid back on. You get a drill, a hot nail, or anything you think will poke a hole. And you poke a hole in the top. And now you got a sprinkler. So you can spray soapy water to look for foamy bubbles to tell you where your leaks are.
Oh, that's great.
And everybody's got a water bottle. So that's one of my little tricks.
J-Mo knows.
So, tire, tube, all garbage. But look how rusty, look at damage that can do. Having water inside between the tube.
Wow.
Just absolute eats the rim. And all preventable by 1, no water-based bead sealers, and 2, not using a tube. Because a tube, that stem doesn't make a seal like a rubber stem does.
All right.
Job, you stick it in with it as far as you can in the drop center, far forward as possible, and down on the edge. And then you catch the inside with the lip facing the rim, so that you catch the rim. Turn it sideways and flip it out. Get your next one. You dig it in sideways and then turn it to snag the next piece. Well, I'm going to be miserable the whole way. Make a liar out of me. With one.
So it seems that you need a lot of physical strength to do this.
For rotten ones, yes. If this was a new rim, it would be very different. Rusty is never good. Technique over power, generally. Grab another small bite. And again, twist it. Smaller bites make you stronger. And once you got it most of the way, there's no, you can't just pull it right out.
All right.
But too bad this is rotten. The whole corner is missing. That'll never seal. That's unfortunate because these older parts are getting hard to find. In certain situations, you cannot patch a sidewall. In no tire ever can you patch a sidewall. You have to plug it. And these are tire plugs. And when you discover you've got a hole, you use your reamer to chase down the hole and drive this in until you've reamed out the hole to this diameter. And then you stick your plug in between the fork and chase it back down your hole and install it halfway down, installing your plug halfway down onto your installer, and then drive it right in until there's this much sticking out. Usually I'd burn these off. You take a lighter, start them on fire, and burn them until they make a nice big seal.
All right.
But generally, once it's plugged here on borrowed time, it's just enough to get you home.
Okay, that's good to know.
It's not a permanent fix.
All right, so the tools that somebody should have in their quad are one of these things and some of these.
Yes, tire plug tools and plugs, and a small air compressor.
Okay, so this is.
You're gonna have to fill your tire back up.
This is a Camel quality.
Camel is my favorite tire plug.
All right.
I don't know where you got these, but wow, Camel. I used to get these from the tire shop when I worked at a tire shop. I worked at OK Tire.
Okay, and then these things are called what again?
These are tire plug tools.
Tire
you get
plug
these
tools.
anywhere, from Canadian Tire to Walmart to pretty much any hardware store generally would have tire plug tools.
Great. Okay, so these are also things that you would want to put in with your water and pop and beer for after the ride. You'd put that inside of your kit for survival in case your tire blows out and you have to fix it and you're out in the bush. All right.
Okay. And this one seems the same situation going on. He put a tube in it, but he decided to try and keep the water out. He put a washer with some silicone. So I've seen all sorts of weirdness in my time. People are certainly creative, if nothing else. So he probably had a few rusty rims and thought, I won't smarten up and not use tubes, but I will make a tube work. We'll get what's left of his tube out of there, hopefully, if it wants to come. And if somehow this is jammed up and not going to cooperate, they often will break off. And at least you'll be able to get it apart. And if it doesn't, we'll pop the bead and take a razor blade and cut it off. No, I think I felt something give.
We were discussing that I thought that there was a tube inside all tires, but you've told me that there isn't, and it should be empty of a tube and just be an empty space in there. Explain, please, what you were explaining to me.
Yeah, the tire itself is the tube. That's your air containment, is the rubber tire. If your tire is failing from these cracks or from leak or whatever, it has nothing to do with, that's what I actually mentioned at the beginning, the sealing surface between your bead lock and here is such a pressed fit, it makes an air seal. And then when you inflate the tire, the side pressure squeezes it rubber against here.
Oh, right.
And makes a complete seal.
That seems so strange, but okay, I can understand that. Oh, right. All right.
And that's why there's in car tires, they're usually around 32 psi, pounds per square inch of air. That's how you measure air, is pounds per square inch.
Okay.
And in ATV tires, they run extremely low pressure.
All right. So if you overfill the air, you don't know the PSI of the tire that you have because the manufacturer will tell you, then the tire will blow off of the rim.
No.
Even with a sealant around it? What?
No.
I watched a lot of movies. I watched a lot of movies, so I'm like, okay, is this tire going to blow?
No. What? You could put twice as much air or much more in a tire. It's called to seat the bead, to make it pop over that lock that I mentioned. You have to go much beyond the rated tire pressure for having the tire run.
All right, all right.
To make it expand and pop on, it is a lot of air pressure.
All right.
So the biggest issue is if you overfill it, now your tire becomes round and pointy, so only the tip top will wear away.
Okay.
And eventually the cords could fail eventually. But it will not, it likely wouldn't happen immediately.
Okay, so I didn't understand that the actual full tire itself is the air source, and then the seal goes on there to make sure that the tire doesn't come off of the rim there, and to seal it completely full so it's attached to the rubber.
Yeah, the rubber seal's on the steel rim itself. That is the seal.
All right, okay, I understand. I've watched a lot of movies.
Oh, I know. That's where I like to dispel a lot of the myths. That's why you're like the perfect candidate to be the counter to me, because I just assume most people know this stuff, but if you weren't born around it, how could you possibly know?
I know nothing about these tires.
Exactly.
I see them.
And you're the consummate person that doesn't know, starting somewhere. If you don't start somewhere, how would you ever learn?
Yeah, I know nothing about tires. I know that they're on the car, and I don't know how to get them off of the car, put them on the car. I don't know how to fill it with air, nothing, except for my bicycle, of course.
Well, it seemed to be like life lessons you learn as a kid, but I guess that's more country than city.
Oh, yes, I have lots of friends.
Not that there aren't very knowledgeable city people, but the majority is not. Well,
the ladies that are watching this, you may remember a scene where everyone gets in the car and nobody knows how to drive or how to function the car because nobody drives the car. So in the country people, they learn how to drive
very young.
Quads, the tractor.
I think my first dune buggy, I would have been 5 years old.
That's wild.
A homemade dune buggy my brother made, and it wasn't much, but it was propulsion. And that's probably what started all this for me.
That's great.
But he was the mechanic, and then I was the test pilot. So send the mummy on his mystical journey.
That's funny. Oh my goodness.
Well, I had to start somewhere. And if you're ready for your big moment, you can try and use it. The other side goes in. That's actually really good.
Good.
Okay, and then wiggle it to get as deep as you possibly can. And once you've got it as far as you think it'll let you go, stand it up and take an impact tool. And you're going to use this side here. I don't
know how long I can hold this impact tool. It's actually really heavy.
When I finished popping the tire off the bead, it's dripping. There's lots of water inside there.
So it's just rusting the rim away.
Yep. That's a very good example of why not to use a tube. Like, you only use a tube if you don't care about anything. You don't care about the tire. You don't care about the rim. It's a one-time deal and you move on, then fine. But I generally care somewhat about my ATVs. I want them to last and the parts to last.
All right.
Yeah, there's no end to the fun of people putting. That's a lot of water.
Right.
Don't use tubes. Okay? Well, for just teaching purposes, we're going to use this rim with a couple of dents, but I'll show you how it goes so we can show a proper install. You clean off as much of the rust as you can with a wire wheel. Extra shiny. Making sure everything between your lock bead and your seating face is clear of rust and pitting. And to seal it right up, we'll use a proper bead sealer with a long brush so you can paint your eyelashes if you want. and then you just paint her up like Picasso. Right on the seam.
I like the smoky eye, but I think that's too smoky.
Yeah, it has a slight clumping effect. You can put a little bit on here so that when you put your rubber stem in, she's gonna seal. And then I take my rubber stem and you get a little string of snot and right in the middle. And then actually the stem remover is also the tool to install these. This takes out the core and this inserts the whole piece. A perfect situation, a sealer on it. The beads are in good condition. And then before we install the rubber, we'll go up to the rubber here. Find a nice cloth rag, because if you have a paper towel, it's not going to hold together. You get a nice wet spot and soak the tire. And clean your surfaces really good. It does, brake clean does two things. It cleans surfaces of rubber to perfection and also softens the rubber. So that if you are putting a tire on, it's going to seal, its odds of sealing are as good as they're going to get. It's already quite a bit cleaner. Looks like brand new rubber. The other side. And it dries really fast as well, so as soon as I'm done cleaning, it's ready for the next step. You can watch it dry. I don't know if you caught that.
I can see it drying quickly.
Anyway, hopefully it shows up on film.
It will.
And then I use my good old friend, Mr. Fluid Fill. I use for so many things, including tire prep. Because most water-based tire lube is water-based, like dish soap. And so that's why oftentimes you'll get rust in your beads, because it's water-based, and metal and water, you're going to get rust. Mm-hmm. But with this stuff, it's got anti-rust. It says right on the front.
Perfect.
Rust's worst enemy. So it's slippery like a bead sealer, but it prevents rust. So it's your best friend. And also this stuff takes forever to dry out, so you don't have to worry about it drying on you. And we mentioned before, when the rubber slips over this lump here, that's your bead lock. Mm-hmm. It gets trapped between the bead lock and the thing, that's your seal. If you don't put some lubricant on this, when the rubber tries to slip over, it's dry. And it takes so much air pressure that likely would hurt the tire, right, rip the cords from having too much air pressure to get there. So I always put a little bit on the rim itself, on the bead lock. One day I'll get a tire machine. But until then, just happy I can change my own tires. Remembering that our drop center is where we want to start to make the easiest installation. This is the taller one. We want the shortest one possible. So have that one facing up. And then figure out which direction you want your tread. If you want it facing this way, whatever your application is, just look how the old tire came off. But in this time, we're going to have it go on this way. You put it on the rim, and if you get lucky, it'll go on just from pushing. Push it in for whatever it'll let you have, and then grab the rubber with the edge, and pop it in.
Oh my goodness.
There's one.
Oh, that's pretty easy to go in there.
Not bad. Like I said, if all the conditions are right, it should go easy. Rusty old rims, they sure can fight you. Here comes the less fun part sometimes.
Oh, okay.
You put always put your stem facing you to your start in that area. And get your knee to keep the rubber underneath. And then you start walking it around. Have one for a babysitter. Well, it's going to get complicated with the camera here.
Sorry.
No problem. And then just take little bites. And if the tire really starts to fight you, it's because this isn't down in your drop center. You got to knee and push that over inside there. If it fights me, we'll see. See, right now it's getting tight. So I don't know if you can see it on camera. Come around to the other side. You can see that this is stretching almost right across. And as soon as I get it down below, tuck the drop center down, it should get a lot easier. There you go.
So is there a chance of one of those tools flying out of your hand and hitting me in the face?
Not where you're standing.
Thank you. That's why you told me to get out of the way and come over here. Thank you. Thank you, James.
There.
Oh, there we go. All right.
Tire pops on. Then you just get a little compressed air. It may get a little loud. And in the event that the tire doesn't want to seat on the bead, you could take the core out and you get more flow.
And that is the one that you showed me that has the internal piece in there? Is that
Yeah,
what
the
that
core.
Was? The core that has that internal piece. Can you just show me? Oh, no, I'll just wait.
It'll come out shortly here.
Cool.
Hopefully there's enough air pressure. Sometimes I'll bounce on the center. And then your beads will pop on. Might make a little bit of noise, but don't panic. Make sure both beads pop on. Oh, that was quiet. Well, that one's so quiet, nothing happened. That fluid film really does its job. I'm going to do this again at some point without the lube, and you'll see what the difference is.
So that small sound was just it going over
Just
that hump.
That's right.
Perfect. Okay.
And actually, I don't think we're far enough. There we go. One on this side too. It took almost 30 pounds pressure. And if you look on a tire, it'll say max PSI to seat the beads. It says 15 PSI max, and we way exceeded that. But if the rubber's in good shape, which these are brand new tires, generally it's got to go. There's only one way, and you add more air pressure.
What happens if you exceed the pressure? Is that it's
Well,
going to explode?
They're recommended from the manufacturer that it could rupture, but generally I've never seen it, and I worked at a tire shop. And then to get the tire pressure down, rather than sit there and press the little button all day to let the air out, you take the core back out. And a little known secret that once it whistles, you're at 15 PSI. But we got to go all the way down to 5 PSI. So
Oh, wow.
let a lot of air out. This speeds up the process. There's our 15, there's our whistle. And then you just take your best guess. I'm guessing we're not far off. So I'm going to reinstall it, and we'll do the rest the slow way. So
Really
we're pretty
quick, I
good.
think.
We're at 8 PSI. And we want it down to 5. So we're just going to use the back of this. It's got a little pressure release valve. A little button at the back to let the pressure out. And then check it again. Oh, we didn't let out much. It's quite a bit of air in this tire. Don't forget always to reset your button every time.
I've never seen one of those before. What are they called again?
Tire pressure checker.
Tire pressure checker.
You can buy them at any automotive store, sells them, but for low pressure ones, sometimes it's a special order item.
Oh, hey.
There we go, we're at 6.
I'll try to find it, and if so, put it on the Amazon link in the description.
Oh, I'm sure you can get them through Amazon. Yeah, if you stick the Amazon link at the bottom of this video there, then any people that may be watching can get what they need. There we go. We're at 5 PSI. That's where I want it. Cap it and ride it.
Really?
Yep, it's ready for riding.
Well, you know, that's not as we were discussing the first time that we did the first video. That was hardcore.
Oh,
That
yeah, it was a rusty rim.
yes,
It
and
was miserable.
it was actually great because then, as we were discussing,
Yeah.
we can show the most hard way that it could possibly go.
Yeah, like
But
when you're dealing with older stuff, you have to get creative and you can't be a quitter.
mm-hmm.
If you need things done, you got to figure out a way to get it done.
Yeah, and it was great for me to learn that. So now seeing this, how much easier it is when it's a correct piece of rubber, it's not filled with water because there was a tube in it. You know, now I could see that this is something that I could do this.
There you
So
go.
I'm really happy
That's
that
what I want everybody to feel like they can do it.
yeah, if Natalie can do it, you all can do it. I could do this. So yeah, and the loud bangs and stuff, telling me beforehand, it's not the tire exploding. It's just, hey, it's been a lot of movies. So it's not the tire exploding, it's actually sealing itself.
I often like to not tell people that and watch their faces when it pops.
Oh, you saw me jump. So hey, it's always nice to see you, James. I appreciate you coming to help me and show me this tire stuff and how everything works. And I can't wait for us to do our next video.
Excellent. We'll see you next time.
Okay, bye. And don't forget, everyone, JMO knows.